comes along, we love upgrades and we love new features, but really new things. There's a universal response to them. It's always fear and doubt and suspicion. Every technology that has ever existed, that has ever come out. If you just think about telephones and cars and airplanes, they weren't met with, oh my goodness, the world is a better place. Almost universally, those technologies were considered frightening. If you think about telephones, people were now suddenly terrified that you'd never want to go out and meet people. You'd just sit in your house and phone them. Or radios. Now you're never going to go to shows. You're just going to sit in your dark room and listen to the radio. So this is just the nature of technology. As soon as something new comes along, it's not like you're open to it. You doubt it. There might be frightening things about it, but eventually they become mainstream, and we then can't imagine life without it. So I guess this is the why I like this picture, because it just kind of shows the human spirit. As soon as something strange comes along, all you want to do is kill it. You don't want to embrace it wholeheartedly. You don't know if those aliens are going to be bringing gifts. You just immediately distrust them. So anyway, that was funny. I think so. Okay, can everyone hear me? Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, so the first slide that I have, 20 years ago, there was a lot of excitement about a new technology that was coming along. There were forums like this, and people who were suspicious, but also people who were excited about a potential future, where now instead of us being having to, if you wanted to have a voice, you had to go through some mainstream publishing company or something like that. That technology was the internet, and the kind of promise that it had was that now everybody could have a voice. We could all connect directly to people. We could join communities and societies without having to go through some kind of central conduit that governed it and controlled it. And that was the hope of the internet, that we would live in a world that was decentralized. Everybody could contribute, and there wouldn't be any little closed communities. But we know what happened with the internet. Everything became siloed. If you just think about all the biggest services, everything that you use today, the internet is not actually this diverse, enormous place. If you shop online, there's a few retailers. If you use social networking, there's a few of those. Even things like Uber, I know there's services like Lyft. But at the end of the day, the internet has become very dominated by these siloed organizations that manage to own those communities. And we heard how Facebook does that. They own all your data. They control what you can and can't do. You've heard about censorship. But the internet didn't realize that potential, the potential that we thought it would. And this is the state that we live in today. And there's actually a very good reason for this. When creating a service, let's say creating something like Facebook, a platform like Facebook is very complicated. It needs a lot of investment. You need to have developers, you need to build technologies that can scale. And having something that's open source, even though open source technologies have been with us forever, it's very difficult to kind of corral or bring all those skills together, all that tech, and in an open source way that creates these valuable communities that we end up joining. And this is just how it is. To try and create a distributed service or an open source service, you're always going to be facing that issue of, well, okay, Linux is open and friendly, and you can do whatever you like with it, but it's not as shiny as OS X. It doesn't have some great, like all those great animations and all those great apps. We need a company that can now raise money through investment and then can provide services around that. So like Facebook, they manage to sell data to their advertisers, and they can get investments to now go and improve their services. Now if you think about Uber as well, Uber is all about, when people talk about Uber, they say, well, we're decentralizing this whole passenger driver type thing. But again, there we have now not a true decentralized service. At the end of the day, Uber is owning all those people and creating a value there. And we need them to do it, and we need a company that can do that for us. Because they need to build that service out, and it takes a lot of money. Now, if you think about the way Uber works, we have drivers and we have passengers, but we have what's called a hub and spoke model. Now this is exactly the same for every other service, all the ones that I spoke to you about before. And that hub, the thing in the middle there, allows passengers to connect with those drivers. But at the end of the day, all it's doing is performing a financial function. You know, it is the one that is allowing us to transact with those drivers in a safe and secure way. You know, where we don't have to worry about, you know, if the payment's going to be successful or not. But, you know, in a world that we live in, wouldn't it be nice if we could create the situation where those passengers and drivers didn't have to connect through this hub and spoke model? If they could now go and connect directly. And you can see that this hub is performing that financial function. So if they were to connect directly, what we would have is the ability now for these customers to pay their drivers directly. But even though we all know where this is going, and we know how blockchain has allowed us to do this, to be able to make financial transactions in a peer-to-peer way, there's still that whole thing about, okay, well, who's going to create that platform? You know, that Uber. I think this is now where this blockchain is taking us. I think none of us can really fathom or imagine how the world is going to change and how these services that exist today are going to be disrupted. You know, we all get an inkling of it now that we've all been involved in blockchain and peer-to-peer transactions. But, you know, and a lot of what blockchain, the promise of blockchain now is that it's going to go and streamline existing business processes, and it's going to make things better, cheaper, quicker, faster. But I think what's going to happen, in the same way that the internet surprised us in the early days, you know, we couldn't have imagined things like social networking. So there's all these new business models and new ways of doing things that have risen out of the internet. So blockchain has so much more potential than just being able to connect people in a financial transaction.